Takes your offense with drop back quarterbacks. Would you like to have a quarterback who could really run as well?
Yeah, I think mobility is important. Now, every quarterback, I made the statement, I like to have good quarterbacks. And if he's a good quarterback, but he's a special runner and not as special a passer, then you shape the offense around his special skills. If he's a good quarterback and he's a special passer, then you shape the offense around his special skills. And I think the mistake everybody says is, well, we need a running quarterback. If you don't have a running quarterback. If you have a running quarterback but he's not any good, then you need a passing quarterback. Well, what you need is a good quarterback. And some good quarterbacks are good runners and effective throwers. Some good quarterbacks are good throwers and effective runners. Some are good at both. They all have their different types, and I think as coaches, you have to say, here's what we got, and let's shape the offense around it. I think every quarterback has to have mobility. And I think the good ones that I've seen, there's always about 2 or 3 third downs in a game where you got to move and make a play with your feet, even the drop back guys. So that's important, yeah.
So if you had a guy like Cameron Newton,
if
he was on campus when you showed up, we'd be looking at a different offense.
Yeah, I can assure you, you'd be looking at a different offense. We have our system, but we try to build it around our guys. And that's something that's a little different in college. Until we can get and draft what we want and pick exactly what we want, we don't have that luxury right now. I don't think many colleges do. You try to draft the best football players that you can who can score points for you, and then you better shape the offense around it. All right, now, our philosophy wouldn't change. We'd still believe in the same things. The structure wouldn't change too much, but in how you get to it would be very different. Cam Newton would be good in any offense.
Derek, did you think that Torn was trying to do so much? We've seen him make one cut and go throughout the year. Was that an issue Saturday?
Well, I told him that my wife, after the game, said, why does Torn get the ball and stop? Which I think that's your question. And I told Torn, and I said, I saw you outrun the entire Alabama secondary, but then you get the ball in the outside zone and you got green grass and you stop and you don't trust your speed. And I think that's what it is. He doesn't trust, his abilities in some ways because he's still sorting through it. So he gets a little jumpy out there. He ran a little jumpy the other night. And sometimes when you play a real good defensive line, they can make you jumpy. So that had to contribute to it. Those guys are quick, they're slanting, they're moving, they're on edge. So you didn't have clean reads all the time. So things would flash, and then you lose your trust a little bit. I think that's what happened. And I think that's an experience issue. I do. Torrance is a junior, but this is his first season playing.
You ran the Rick Rogers and the Zach Rogers a number of times on those center.
Yeah.
Was that something that you saw in the course of the game, or did you go into the game?
Well, because of their defensive line, we felt like we needed some misdirection. And we're going to need it all year because it's hard for us to just hammer people. These guys are pretty good against the run, so you're always trying to steal ways to get more rushing yards. And quarterbacks help you on some of that too, but we don't do a lot of those. So those are different ways to get some good running yards, getting the ball to some different guys on the perimeter.
Do you see any challenges either this week or for the rest of the season motivating the 2-6 team, and how do you overcome those?
You know what? Our spirits have been pretty good. I think since the first day of the season, we keep trying to define ourselves by how we compete. And we've stayed pretty true to that except for one game. Probably the Georgia games are one I was most disappointed in. But since then, we've seen another upward trend. What we got to learn to do is finish and execute late in the game. Execute. So if we can combine the competitive spirit and the fight and the resolve, but have a little better execution, which we did in the third quarter and early in the fourth, and we just had a couple of breakdowns. And I think that's the key. But you know, you play football because it's fun. And sometimes we lose sight of that. It's fun to go out there and compete and go lay it on the line for 4 quarters. And when players lose sight of that, and they're so focused on what the record is, then that's how bad things happen.
You talk a little bit about how Lathers and Malik Jackson performed.
Malik's, he's the most consistent defensive lineman we have and the most productive. And he couldn't get on the field at USC, as an aside. He's doing great. I'm glad he's here. He's about 30 pounds lighter than what he should be in this league at that position, but he's in there fighting. So I'm glad he's here. Herman is getting better each week. He does some things really well, and then there's a lot of times when he shows his inexperience. And the more consistent he gets, the better he's going to become. But he's a fast runner and hitter, and that's a good start in football.
Could you talk about play of your receivers in that game and what Denarius in particular brings?
Yeah, well, Denarius, all 3 of them, the seniors, Gerald, Denarius, and Luke, really performed the way seniors should be performing, and the way we need them to perform. You know, Denarius was kind of the star because of the big plays, but Gerald made some really big plays to keep the drives alive. And, you know, just even the little play before the half seems like an insignificant play. We're on the 6-yard line, and it's 3rd and 4. It's a big play because there's a minute left. If we don't get it, they're going to chop the timeout. We're going to punt. Something bad could happen. They got field position. So it saved points to me. And that was a big play and a couple of little 3rd down catches. So, and then Luke catches the big touchdown. And of course, Denarius had a breakout day. And that's what we need from seniors. And that's what we need from guys who are experienced football players, is that kind of production. And when you do, you get results.
Derek, what did Justin say to you about being up in the box on Saturday? Now that you've had a couple of days to think about it, do you feel like that's where you're keeping?
Probably, it looks that way. He's been in both, so it wasn't something new to him. In fact, he's probably been in the box more. I think it helped us a little bit in the secondary, communicate between drives and adjustments and personnel in and out of the game. We just, both of our secondary guys were up top, and so I think that was a little help.
Stone's got kind of a unique way of snapping the ball, I guess. Is that something you guys have tried to work with him?
Well,
or the quarterbacks?
It's the left-handed dilemma. And he's never snapped before. So it's a little different than the way Gooch snaps. There's 2 or 3 different ways you can snap the football. So we're just trying to, it's hard because you got a right-hander and a left-hander, and Stone's not your guy, and so you're the quarterback. Who's in? I mean, you get in the habit of catching a snap one way. Well, now, I wish he was right-handed. It'd been a lot easier, but he's not.
Justin Hunter didn't look like he played a lot. Is that because of Moore and Jones playing so well, or?
No, I think he got about the same number of snaps, Jim. He just didn't seem like he played a lot because he was a non-factor. I don't know, we're going to have to try to get him the ball a little bit this week. Kind of went quiet on us. But he hurt his knee in the Alabama game. They knocked him around. We tried to get him the ball in the Bama game. And so he kind of he hobbled around all week in practice. So we need to get him going. We need to get Derek going. But, it's hard to, I always say, let's get Derek and Justin going a little bit. But when Gerald and Denarius and Luke are playing well, we only have one ball. So they got to sit tight.
Derek, how much can early playing time that Connor's getting out of first start? How much, in your experience, does that help guys like that from the road, freshman quarterbacks that can come in and play something you want?
Well, experience helps the quarterback, and it'll be that way since the end of time. And the only way to get experience is to play. So every snap he takes will help.
Anything else, guys?
Excuse me.
Jack,
Where that came from?
you mentioned, talked about obviously Jeffrey's play, but all those big receivers they've had, a number of them have had really big games this year. Gurley, Moore, Jeffrey. Were you pleased overall with what you guys did against the receivers?
I was, and I was until about 10 minutes to go in the game. I thought we did a great job back there. What we challenged him, I thought Prentice really stepped in and filled a role that what we needed him to do. He functioned well at corner. But we gave up probably the play of the game to the best guy. And so even though I was pleased, it's kind of been, we got to be able to do it for 4 quarters. But, we really struggled stopping 21. As good as we played in the back end, we didn't play very well up front. Getting blocked and shoved around up there. And it's hard when that big guy, gets past the front. It's hard to get him down.
You talked about motivating with 2 and 16. Your team's been huge underdogs in the last several games. Now they're a double-digit underdog. Are they mature enough to handle that and understand that going on the road?
You mean we're a favorite this
by
week?
18.
Wow. I don't know. I hope they're not looking at that stuff. The last time we were a favorite, we went into OT. Is that right? Against a team from the same league. So hopefully we learn our lesson. That was a nail biter. And this one will be too, if we don't go out and play the best we can for 4 quarters.
With Wagner's size and natural abilities, could he maybe be a better corner than a safety?
Well, you could make a case for the same thing with Jansen. But then who you going to play at safety? That's the dilemma we're in. Prentice has good ball skills. He's got more corner type size, he does. So that's what we're doing now. Brent's got, a little better safety size than any of the other guys. He's a 205. He needs to be about 215. But those good safeties are about 215. If you want to go tackle 21 and good backs, then you got to have some stout safeties that can come up and hit. And we're thin there. And, Jansen really has position specifics for a corner. His size, speed, and everything else. But he's our best defender back there. And when he's in the back end, he makes up for a lot of mistakes ahead of him and getting guys down. But when he's not in the back end, like he wasn't on the long run, and it hurts us.
So you're not one of those 4 corners guys or something. I know some secondaries are going to more of a 4 corner size, like you'd rather have 215 or 220.
Not in this league. You better be able to come up there and hit a runner in this league. You look at the good teams we're playing. I think Alabama's safeties were about 220. Who come up and strike you. Now, you got to have good nickel. You got to have a bunch of corner guys too when it's time to cut. But you can keep those safeties from being exposed in space by your scheme, or having the corner guys sit on the bench until it's 3rd and 10, and they put 4 wides in the game and put the little guys in. But when the big boys are in, you better have some big boys to match them. And if you don't, it's that old boxing match deal. It's going to hurt you.
Derek, Oregon's offense is kind of the talk of college football right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that as unstoppable as it seems to be, or do you think maybe it hasn't played a great defense yet?
It's hard for me to say. It looks that way. But every time you think something looks a certain way in football,